A couple of days back, the Supreme Court Collegium decided to take steps to increase the diversity of the Supreme Court of India. If we examine the reasons why the Supreme Court came to this decision, a very late decision, we sort of need to go back to the history of the composition of the higher judiciary and how judges have been appointed and the factors that have been taken into consideration while appointing judges to the High Court and the Supreme Court. Uh, Here we need to sort of understand that as against the other institutions of governance envisaged under the Constitution of India, namely the executive and the legislature, where we have seen substantial democratization, even if not complete or which sort of fulfills social justice, but substantial diversity. The bench, the judiciary has been, especially the higher judiciary, has been one place which has been completely outside this whole democratization process. And when I'm talking about democratization, I'm talking about democratization based on numbers particularly. I mean, it is no secret that the Knowledge Society of India, basically the people who have been controlling knowledge production, knowledge have been Brahmins, are mostly Brahmins. So it is in this context that one needs to examine how particularly caste, gender and religion has been a very strong glass ceiling in terms of upward mobility in the judiciary. For this, first we have to bear in mind that judges are human beings living in the society with the same kind of prejudices. And the location from where a judge comes definitely reflects upon his or her judgment. So it is very interesting to look at statistics of the diversity of judges who have been appointed to the various high courts. But as of now, we have data, we have extant data only with respect to the Supreme Court, mainly thanks to work done by George H. Gadbois, which is sort of put together in a book called Judges of the Supreme Court. So if you sort of look at the Supreme Court of India from 1950 till date, what we actually see is that 36% of the Chief Justices have been Brahmins, and almost every Chief Justice has been Savarna, and this includes both Muslims, the three Muslims who became the Chief Justice of India, and I am including Parsis also as Savarnas. So all the three Muslims who have become Chief Justices, all of them are Ashraf Muslims. And interestingly, in terms of religious minorities, all the four judges who have become judges of the Supreme Court are from dominant Sikh. All the six judges who have become judges of the Supreme Court are from dominant Sikh caste. Similarly, if you look at Christians, out of the 9 judges who have become Supreme Court judges, at least 6 of them have been particularly St. Thomas Christians from Kerala. And when I'm saying St. Thomas Christians, I mean Savarna Christians from Kerala who claim that they are descendants of the original converts to Christianity, and they could be from different denominations. Amongst the other 3, except for Justice Vikramjit Sen and Justice Vivian Bose, they come from a dominant caste location, and only Justice Bhanumati comes from a non-dominant caste background, and she was a practicing Christian. Similarly, if you sort of look at the Muslim judges, of course, when the first bench of the Supreme Court of India, you had there was a Muslim seat, which was a political sort of expression to show that India was secular. So amongst the 3 judges, there was 1 Muslim judge. But what has happened is, over the years, the number of Savarna Hindu judges increased, but the Muslim judge remained 1. Till Justice Hidayatullah sort of refused to take the Muslim seat, and that was the first time that there were 2 Muslim judges. But more or less, the representation of Muslims have always been in the margins, and almost all the judges, with the exception of Fatima Bibi and the current sitting Muslim judge of the Supreme Court, Justice Nasir. Almost all judges have been from Ashraf locations. In other words, Savarna Muslim locations. So what we have to see here is we see a bunch of dominant caste men. So it's sort of a dominant caste men's club. So this also is reflected very much in the kind of judgments that come out from the Supreme Court. I mean, and this is, though we don't have the data, I can safely say that this is also the case with most high courts. Like, there was this incident when, while presenting before the United Nations Special Rapporteurs on Minorities, there was a retired High Court judge who was with me, and he very casually observed during a break that the judiciary, rather the legal profession in India, is actually controlled by a few hundred families, though he was exaggerating, which is more or less the truth. Because we also have, if you sort of look at the history of appointment of judges till date, there's no accountable procedure, even with the collegium. The collegium started after the crisis that the Supreme Court faced, especially during the emergency, when between Mohan Kumar Mangalam and who was the law minister at that point of time, and Indira Gandhi decided to interfere in the elevation and appointments to the Supreme Court. Though we did get judges like Justice Krishna during that time, what we also saw was judges like Justice Khanna having to leave, having to opt out of the judiciary. So it was this kind of, but prior to this, what was happening essentially was the Chief Justice of India had complete freedom to decide who he could elevate to the High Court or the Supreme Court. So we have had cases like, without mentioning names, we have had cases where the Chief Justice would go for walks with a particular lawyer, and because he liked the lawyer, he sort of elevated him to the Supreme Court or the High Court. So this sort of changed with this interference, and a sort of procedure had to be brought in, and it was after the judge's case that the collegium actually, there needed to be some kind of a mechanism outside what has been prescribed in the constitution and legally. There had to be some kind of mechanism. But even the collegium, the factors that affected most in terms of elevation of judges was not the kind of cases a lawyer had, or the kind of cases a lawyer had handled, or the kind of knowledge a lawyer had or a person had, but it was more about who was visible to the collegium and who they would promote. So what one actually sees is, one sees a lot of relatives being elevated to the higher judiciary, a lot of relatives of judges, prominent lawyers and senior lawyers being elevated to the judiciary. So a check to this cannot come just, what the Supreme Court is doing is not right now, is like I started off saying, is a little too late. But even when it comes to that, you still have the same collegium sort of deciding who would enter the bench. Now the question is, unless there is fixed proportion ratio and a method that the judiciary itself evolves, this kind of lopsided representation and lack of diversity would continue, where you have a minority population completely controlling the judicial apparatus of this country. And the only way to get out of it is for the higher judiciary to sort of point out the white elephant in the room and take active steps and formulate methods to increase the diversity and bring in more and more marginalized people based on their caste, religion and gender, and cross-cutting into the higher judiciary. Thank you very much.